Venezuelan government extends energy emergency law by 1 year. Protests against COVID-19 restrictions see 3 killed in Gabon. And Mali's Prime Minister says he is willing to hold talks with insurgents. Hello and welcome to teleSUR. I'm Doris Polo in Quito, Ecuador, and this is From the South. In the face of coercive measures imposed by the United States, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro extended the energy emergency declared to recover the country's oil industry by 12 months. Minister of Oil Tariq El Aissami presented the proposal to extend the emergency. This as the Ali Rodriguez Araque Presidential Commission has been established. The body aims to increase production to 1,508,000 barrels of oil and 6 million cubic feet of gas, maintaining the irreversible trend of progressive and sustained growth.
This is the decree by which I extend the energy emergency of Venezuela's oil industry and the Ali Rodriguez Commission for another 12 months, in order to continue the efforts to extend the declaration of the energy emergency and proceed to take the corresponding and, I would say, bold measures for its comprehensive recovery. In the scope of the anti-blockade law and the new beneficial contracts for the Republic and for international investors, we are moving forward in negotiations with companies from all over the world. And I want to tell investors from the United States that the doors of Venezuela are open for capital investment in the oil, gas, and petrochemical sectors to work in a win-win partnership.
Staying in Venezuela, the government has begun the distribution of the Russian Sputnik V vaccine. Health Minister Carlos Alvarado highlighted that necessary logistics are in place to guarantee the conservation and proper storage of the shots as they are distributed. Personnel have also received training in handling and administering the vaccines across 60 hospitals throughout the country. At least 70% of the population will be immunized this year. In the first stage, the Russian vaccines will be given to medical and health personnel, social workers, the military, police, mayors, governors, and members of the National Assembly. Mass vaccination will begin in April.
34 promoting teams have been established. Phase 2 of the swearing-in of committees and promotional and municipal teams, we are already in that phase. And Phase 3 of the national plenary meetings of the 33 teams of social movements, committees, and promotional teams, and the largest number of leaders from each of those social sectors.
In other news, protests were held in the Brazilian state of Sao Paulo on Friday to reject the suspension of economic aid to mitigate the financial impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. The mobilizations were led by the homeless workers movement. Protesters blocked roads to demand the government, led by Jair Bolsonaro, restore the economic aid offered at the start of the epidemic. They stressed that extreme poverty increased by 12.8% as a result of COVID-19. Bolsonaro cut economic aid for vulnerable citizens, even though it was endorsed by Congress. Staying in Brazil, far-right President Jair Bolsonaro has appointed an Army Reserve officer to lead state-owned energy giant Petrobras after criticizing several successive increases in the price of fuel. Silva Eluna, the former defense minister under President Michel Temer, had been serving as general director of the Itaipu Binacional Dam. Bolsonaro's announcement was followed by a sharp drop in the oil company's share prices. They reduced by 7.92% Friday, with preferred shares down 6.63%. Petrobras has increased fuel prices 4 times so far in 2021, a cumulative rise of nearly 35%. We'll take a short break now. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back. In Ecuador, the National Electoral Council has concluded the vote count for the first round of the presidential poll, confirming Andrés Araújo's victory with 32.72% of the ballots, followed by Guillermo Lasso, who secured 19.74%. According to the results, the candidate for the Pachakutik Indigenous Party, Yaku Perez, is out of the race, which will be settled in the second round on April 11th. Perez obtained 19.38% of the votes. Meanwhile, some trade union and social organizations have announced they will join the Pachakutik Indigenous Mobilization that is advancing from the south towards the capital, Quito, to demand a recount of the votes cast on February 7th after Perez claimed he was the victim of electoral fraud. In Argentina, revelations surrounding influence peddling by Health Minister Ginés González Garcia to gain access to COVID-19 vaccines have led to his resignation. The irregular conduct of the now former minister was made public by González himself during a radio interview with journalist Horacio Verbitsky, during which he said that he had received the vaccine thanks to a favor done by an official. President Alberto Fernandez asked the minister to submit his resignation through Cabinet Chief Santiago Cafiero. According to sources at the presidential palace, the current Secretary of Access to Health, Carla Visotti, is the main candidate to replace González. Moving on, students and other groups continue to rally in Spain to condemn the imprisonment of rapper Pablo Hasél. Social organizations in at least 15 cities have called for peaceful street mobilizations to demand the release of the artist, while calling on the government to respect freedom of expression. The sentencing of the rapper for expressing his opinion about the Spanish monarchy has sparked widespread condemnation locally and abroad. Activists have also condemned the police repression of protesters. Now, Russia has registered its third vaccine against the coronavirus called Covivac and promised to introduce the jab to its population by March. The vaccine was produced by the state-run Chumakov Center based in Moscow, which employed a different method of development from Sputnik and Epivacorona using an inactive virus.
Today we note that a third vaccine, Covivac, has been registered. It was developed by the Chumakov Center, and already in mid-March, the first 120,000 doses will be distributed within the civilian circulation. Today, Russia is the only country that has already 3 vaccines against the COVID-19.
Camping tents have emerged as a lucrative alternative for Turkish hotel owners, as traditional hotel businesses have been hit hard by COVID-19. Though the rooms are not very big and can only accommodate 2 guests due to coronavirus regulations, they have been equipped with basic facilities. As the contagion continues to spread, more and more hotel owners are exploring new ways to find business opportunities during the winter season. Since the outbreak hit Turkey in March, the country's tourism revenue has dropped by 2/3, and the number of restaurant and hotel closures peaked in the second quarter of last year, according to the Ministry of Culture and Tourism.
Our inspiration comes from Thailand. When I saw the tent hotels in Thailand, I thought, why not build one in Turkey? Now people's needs for camping is surging amid the pandemic, and the tent hotels can provide them with a new option.
We are a lively family, so we would have celebrated with our friends if we didn't have to avoid gatherings during the epidemic. We don't want to miss this special day, so we chose to come here and celebrate in this way.
2 people have died amid demonstrations in Gabon's 2 major cities as anger over restrictions aimed at curbing the spread of COVID-19 turned into street protests. On Thursday night, security forces fired tear gas and stun grenades in some neighborhoods in the capital Libreville and Port-Gentil to disperse protesters who banked pots and set up barricades, burning tires and debris. Gabon restricted travel in and out the capital city and expanded curfew hours to slow the spread of coronavirus infections last week. The Tigray People's Liberation Front has laid out 8 conditions for beginning peace talks with the government. TPLF spokeswoman Leah Kassa outlined the group's preconditions for joining talks to end the 4 months of fighting on the Facebook page of Demitsi Weyani TV, a station owned by the former ruling party. On November 4th, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed ordered airstrikes and a ground offensive against TPLF after its forces attacked federal army bases in the region. Abiy declared victory less than a month later after the TPLF withdrew from the regional capital Mekele and major towns, but low-level fighting continues. Continuing with news on the continent, Africa's 3rd largest airline, Kenya Airways, says it is ready to help governments on the continent to distribute COVID-19 vaccines. The airline's commercial manager said that it has sufficient capacity and experience in handling fragile cargo that needs to be transported at cold storage conditions. Jabs earmarked for Africa risk spoilage if not transported within precise temperature ranges from ground handling to shipment and delivery. Kenya Airlines serves the major air hubs in Africa, has long established routes to Europe, and on Friday introduced a flight to New Delhi with an eye on business to ship Covishield, the Indian-made Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine.
KQ is 100% ready to offer the Kenyan government and many other African governments very robust solutions in the movement of the COVID-19 vaccines. The facility has a capacity to handle about 300 tons of pharma at a go. We actually, as I mentioned earlier, we intend to have a transit window of 6 hours maximum. So that means helps our churn of the product. And 300 tons is equivalent to 3 Boeing 747 freighters.
The South African city of Cape Town is ready to host the One People International Film Festival. Organizers say everything is on track and submissions are pouring in with about 2 months to go.
The city of Cape Town, a picture-perfect setting for the first One People International Film Festival. The city is one of the world's premier film and tourism destinations, and these industries have greatly suffered as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and lockdown. This film festival will bring a much-needed kickstart to the industry. The festival will be held from the 26th of April to the 2nd of May and will include important historic days such as South Africa's Freedom Day on the 27th of April and May Day on the 1st of May, with an emphasis on showcasing films that celebrate diversity and inclusion. The organizers say the festival's exquisite array of narrative, documentary, and animated films will contribute in uniting communities from across the globe. The City of Cape Town Mayor Alderman Dan Plato says they welcome the idea of such a festival.
A festival of an international kind of a standard. You call it already, it will be one of the biggest in Africa. Any municipality would love to be part and parcel of something like that and to support it because it always attracts investors, it attracts film tourists to your country. It means it is feed in your country or in your city, and it means it is money that's been spent looking at COVID, how COVID hit our economy. Every envoy after COVID is over, the envoys, people that want to get out of their countries and visit South Africa and Cape Town, we will not say no to that.
The film industry contributes around 3.5 billion rand a year to the local economy, and the city hopes that it will continue to grow during and post the COVID-19 pandemic. The festival aims to create an intimate and collaborative space for filmmakers, holding a range of events from masterclasses to red carpet premieres and plenty of co-production networking opportunities. For teleSUR News in Cape Town, I'm Stephen Taylor.
We do have more stories coming up. Until then, stay where you are. Mali's government has created a body to open talks with Islamist militants whose insurgency has made vast portions of the country ungovernable.
Since 2017, more and more voices in Mali are calling for dialogue with our brothers who have joined radical groups. This is a demand that has been expressed many times over. The second priority of the axis concerning the adoption of a social stability pact aims at dialoguing with radical groups in Mali. In addition to the elections, including those for the President of the Republic and deputies, it was decided, in accordance with Axis 6 of the Transition Roadmap, to adopt a new constitution by referendum.
Rescue services were deployed in the Indonesian capital Jakarta on Saturday to help evacuate people stranded by severe flooding after heavy rainfall. 193 neighborhoods in South and East Jakarta were submerged by floods as high as 1.8 meters, causing more than 1,300 people to flee. Overflowing rivers crossed the main area of the capital. Now, the Indonesian Meteorological Agency has warned that extreme weather, including heavy rains and strong winds, are expected to continue into the next few days and has asked residents in densely populated areas to remain vigilant.
I was so afraid of being swept away by the flood water. I could only take some clothes with me. At least I can change into them.
The flood water receded last night. By about midnight, many residents have cleared debris from their homes. But suddenly, another flash flood came. I choose to stay at home on the second floor with my wife and children.
Thousands of people in Myanmar continue to protest in the streets of Yangon against the recent military coup. Much of the country has been in uproar since troops deposed civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi on February 1st, with large street demonstrations in both urban centers and isolated villages. According to the Assistance Association for Political Prisoners, nearly 550 people have been detained since the coup, including railway workers, civil servants and bank staff who have walked off their jobs as part of a civil disobedience campaign aimed at crippling the army's ability to govern. The country emerged from its sixth straight overnight internet curfew on Saturday, a measure imposed as neighborhoods around the country began setting up watch groups to guard against evening arrests.
The military said they would rule in democratic way, but at the same time, they immediately cut the internet connection and blocked social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter. That means their words don't match their actions, so we will never believe them. Young people have their dreams. 2019 was a year of development. 2020 was with COVID-19, and we all were thinking about how we will do in our future in 2021. But everyone is gone now. Everything we were hoping for is going to be destroyed. That's why more people are joining the protest than in the past.
Now, a police raid on a shipyard in Myanmar's second largest city, Mandalay, turned violent on Saturday when authorities opened fire on protesters gathering to stop arrests. At least 2 people were injured in the shooting, though it remained unclear if police were using live rounds or rubber bullets. People were seen running away or driving off quickly on motorcycles as shots were heard. Speaking of protests, hundreds of anti-vaccine demonstrators gathered in Australia's main cities on Saturday ahead of the country's COVID-19 vaccine rollout on Monday. In Sydney, demonstrators marched in the streets with banners bearing anti-vaccination slogans, while in Brisbane, demonstrators gathered in a park to listen to speakers and singers. Police forces maintained a heavy presence in most cities, with some arrests made on a cricket pitch in Melbourne. More anti-vaccine protests are planned in the coming days. And on that note, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. For our viewers in Africa, remember you can find us on Starsat channel 461 in South Africa and channel 539 in Nigeria. And join us on social media. For TeleSUR English, I am Doris Polo. Thanks for watching.